Oh yes, it's the Hardcore Marketing Show. I am Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey to break the internet with marketing. And today's show, sponsored by the amazing Cheshire Impact, on a mission to do what? Help you maximize your use of marketing automation, Pardot, and CRM, Salesforce. Hey, CheshireImpact.com. Bam! Now, today's guest, I got to tell you, I'm excited for this one and on multiple dimensions. He is an entrepreneur. He's a creator, a storyteller, athlete, bacon lover. He is the founder of Content Bacon. Who are these guys? They are kick-ass content marketing. They actually create this kick-ass content on inbound marketing. We're going to talk about nurturing. Dave, you're amazing. Dave Kustin, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Casey. Just want to point out, I'm the co-founder of Content Bacon. I have an awesome partner. She's also an amazing entrepreneur. And like you, we're both part of—
What's her name?
Her name is Wendy Lieber.
Shout out, Wendy.
Yep. Shout out to Wendy. Always awesome. Shout outs to Wendy.
Awesome, man. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah. Now, I want to remind people about the theme. The reason we have you and your magnified expertise on here is because we're working on this roadmap for maximizing marketing automation before you start blasting people or building some crazy thing using the latest if-then statement.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta work on the right steps. You gotta know your audience. We did a little work on that. Talked a little bit more about setting up reporting so you know what's working, what's not working. Now we've also talked a little bit about content, a little bit about social, and now we're getting into nurturing. But those last three, that's all you. So we're here to really just talk about this nurturing thing. What kind of content do people want? That kick-ass content you create. What is that? How do we do that? So I want to just start out by, we're both pumped up, we're ready to roll. Let's smash some myths. What's some bogus strategy that people have been thinking about, related to content, relating to the idea of nurturing someone?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a few myths that we always come up against when we're meeting new customers, new prospects. And just one fun myth I'd like to smash is that lawyers don't know everything.
What?
I know lots of—
They don't?
No, and I'm sorry to be a little feisty this morning, but
yes. Well, it's hardcore marketing.
That's right.
Let's do it.
One of the myths that we come in contact with a lot, and I don't know if myth is the right word in as much as it's just lack of awareness. And I make the joke about the lawyer because we're having a
story behind that or something going on?
A little bit. We're having a conversation with a customer who they're not a law firm, but there's an attorney in the conversation, and this particular person thinks they know our business better than we know our business. So that maybe is a story for another podcast. But I think it speaks to, and what I'm referring to speaks to this awareness or lack of awareness around what it really looks like to have an inbound marketing methodology as part of your organization, right, or what it really looks like to have a strategy that's based on being helpful. And so I think the myth there, maybe to use your word, is that some organizations think that content marketing or inbound marketing is a tactic to try for a period of time.
Got it. Like, let's try this for a week.
Let's try outdoor advertising to see if it works. And then we'll see what happens. We'll spend lots of money. And then
I see.
And then go from there. So, inbound marketing, content marketing, it's not a tactic. It's a way of being.
Yeah.
It's I don't know how else to say it other than that. It's just a way of being. It's what all companies should be doing, in my opinion. It's like if having a website 20 years ago, you had to have a website. Today, you have to have content. You have to let people know who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, so they can get to know you, like you, trust you, and perhaps buy from you.
That's interesting. It's that let's test into this thing. Let's just try this thing out. And normally we'd be all in favor of that. Hey, just test out this thing. But there's some strategies or things that are bigger than that. Like this isn't, I love that. Like the billboard, by the way, don't test the billboard. It's probably you can't track
Yeah.
that. It's like
Yeah.
bad. But like the idea, oh, let's just try it out and not waste our entire inheritance on this thing. Okay, cool.
Right.
But you're right that the whole nurturing, inbound, creating it's a different way of doing marketing. But it's an upgrade. It's like you could stay back in the days of the yellow pages, blasting, hoping someone sees your ad, or
Yeah.
there's this new way of doing things, and you're falling behind if you don't adopt it. And it's not something. I mean, there's no marketing automation vendor on the planet. Well, I say that now, and I don't actually know. But the idea of like, let me just go ahead and let me get this tool for a month, try it out. By the way, it's going to take you a month to even get some of these things set up, but you're going to be building content the rest of your life.
That's
So
right.
you can't test, you can't just dabble, right?
No.
So you can't dabble. I guess that's what we're saying here.
Yeah, you can't dabble. I mean, and I maybe another myth, or again, some lack of awareness is, content's evergreen. Content is an asset. Content lasts forever. A billboard, an ad, a radio spot, a TV spot. Those things typically, if not always, are not evergreen. They're timely to when they are being utilized or implemented. Whereas an article, a white paper, a case study, those things, those bits of information that help a customer get to know you, like you, trust you, those are evergreen.
Right.
So having a library, listen, libraries don't expire, right? Libraries last forever. So it's the same thing with your content. They sit on the digital shelf and they last forever, and they can work for you forever.
Right.
Not just be there. They can actually do stuff for you.
You know what? You mentioned the billboard thing and the fact that it expires. And you're in the area too, right? You're up in, where are you at?
No, we're in Fort Lauderdale.
You're in Fort Lauderdale. Okay.
Right.
So I'll need to explain this. I was driving out of Boston, and there's a billboard on the way out, and I was trying to look up the ad here. It's an ad for Petco, and it says Goodell, as in, for those listening, the commissioner of the NFL who basically hates on the Patriots and Tom Brady. Goodell shops at PetSmart.
That's good. I like it.
From Petco, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty funny. Of course, I left the thing thinking PetSmart's brand instead of Petco, but it was funny. We're talking about it now. But to your point, that's timely. He's not. Hopefully, he won't be the commissioner forever.
Right. He won't be.
But this thing that it has legs, but eventually it falls down. It's not something that you can create a continual content machine over.
No, it expires. It has a shelf life.
Right.
That's finite.
Right. So the goal then, is it really the shift from content or things or campaigns that expire? Is part of this the shift to evergreen, the shift to create? I mean, I guess that's automation. That's the dream of marketing automation, is let's create something that continues to operate instead of requiring, that tactical marketer every day.
Yeah. So, we have this conversation a lot, in the office and with our customers, and we're not shitting on traditional media at all. I come from a traditional media background. I have a creative director background. I love and loved creating ads for my customers, in another life. And I loved that part of the marketing world. And it still obviously has its.
Is someone holding a gun to your head?
No, not at all. I mean, I love talking about ads. I love talking about branding. I love talking about all that stuff.
Right.
But it's not for everyone. And when I say everyone, it's not for every kind of company. Certainly call them the 1%ers of the world, the Nikes, the Pepsis, all the big brands, they have to be doing it.
The Petcos, yeah.
The Petcos. I mean, the Fortune 1000 column or the Fortune 500, they have to be doing it. But if there's another company out there that's certainly not in that list, they can also be doing traditional media, but they should also be doing content, because what likely will happen is someone sees an ad, they get interested. It's the tip of the spear. It's an invitation. Yeah. And so I see the invitation. Now I want to go learn more about this company. And the only way to do that is through content. Your About Us page doesn't tell me jack squat. Your services page does nothing for me. I need to hear your brand voice, and that's through content. And I'm not interested in filling out this crazy contact us page that asked me 12 questions, including my annual salary, and we just met. Crazy. Stop asking these questions. Exactly. So, in an ideal world, for many companies, they would do both. They don't have to do both, but if they had to, you could do traditional media, but also create content, because that's a beautiful marriage.
Interesting. But I know we've also talked about just creating content. It isn't enough just to get them to your site. There's more to it. What's that mindset? How do you just approach this holistically? You have
So
someone, they don't have any of this stuff, or,
yeah,
or they've misfired
yeah.
from the beginning. Like, how do you go? How do
How
you?
do you? Okay, so you or your listeners have probably heard Gary Vee say, "Caring is a strategy."
There you go. Yep.
And so we wholeheartedly buy into that and believe that, and that's really at the that's in the DNA of content marketing. That's
Got
what
it.
content marketing is. It's to be helpful.
Got it.
Because the companies that don't want to be helpful, like that are protective of their best information or how
Yeah.
to solve a problem, they're the companies that are losing now.
Mm,
The ones that are winning, the ones that are getting the opportunity to create conversations, are the ones that are saying, "Hey, world, you have a problem. We have a solution. This is what that solution could be." And
right.
so that is the strategy, is to be helpful. You wake up every day and you want to be helpful. What kind of person do you want to be in the world? What kind of company do you want to be in the world? Do you want to be a company that's protective of information, or one that is free with sharing it so that people can, again, get to know you,
Yeah.
and maybe want to do business with you?
It's simple to say. I wonder, if you really dive into that, how, caring is a strategy. I guess you just know. It's almost like, hey, do you love your kids?
Hmm.
Do you love skydiving? Or like you just know. It's like when the kids ask what is that? There's like an Apple Jacks commercial. They're like, we like this cereal. It's like, it doesn't taste like apples. They're like, I don't know. It just tastes good. And it's all
Yeah,
that fake GMO corn and yummy
exactly.
sugar,
It is yummy.
fructose syrup that we love in here. But
Yeah.
it's like that. You just know. But I mean, it's easy to say. Shout out to Gary Vee and all these. Caring is a strategy,
Hmm.
but you got to put that in action.
How do you do it? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
you
How do
gotta.
you really
So
do it?
it's not. Yeah, you got to. Well, how do you know it, and then you got to put it into action? I guess
Yeah.
maybe that's the proof is in the pudding, kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think, how do you know it? Listen, I think if you don't know what it looks like to be helpful, then you probably shouldn't own a business, right?
Right.
Because whether we're selling a service or a product, part of every business is to be helpful, is to deliver value. So just
Right.
delivering value is some form of being helpful, I
But you
think.
could say, well, my product is going to help you, so buy now. So like you miss the educational step. So it's almost like that. It's educationally caring or something like that because
Yeah, well,
sometimes I see people like misuse that and they're like, well, I care about my people. Buy my thing right now. It's, it's $2,000. You give me the money. I
yeah, but
want to help you.
who buys
I
like
want to
that?
help you. I know, right? It sounds like
No one buys like that. I mean,
the car salesman. Let me help you. Help me.
exactly. I mean, just the world we live in has changed so much,
Yeah.
just over the last 3 to 5 years, let alone the last decade. And people don't buy like that anymore. And we make a clear distinction between transactional purchases and considered purchases.
Yeah.
So, going to the pizza shop or the ice cream parlor, or which plumber to use or electrician to come to my house, those are transactional. I don't really need to think so much, or I don't need to evaluate or read tons of content. But if I'm going to go on a trip, or if I'm going to buy something big for my house that costs me
Yeah.
thousands of dollars, or engage a marketing company like yours for my business,
Right.
you bet your ass I'm gonna read about you and see if our values align, see if I think you can actually help me, see
Right.
if you're a charlatan or you actually deliver the goods. So
Totally. Listen to your podcast. Check out the
exactly,
interview with the amazing Dave Kustin himself.
exactly, exactly.
Absolutely.
That,
Yeah.
that, that's pretty
Doing
much.
that work. That's a good point. It's that the considered approach versus the transactional. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. You create kick-ass content. This sounds like it all comes from just this place of being helpful, and you're leading your clients into the place of saying, look, the reason we make kick-ass content is because we're not thinking about you as much as we're thinking about
Correct.
your buyer and
Correct.
so what step, like what's your first step? You
Yeah.
lead off and what?
So our model is we have a subscription model. Our businesses, so when they, we have customers all around the country. So
Yeah.
to some we may look and smell like an agency, but we're not an agency. We do onboarding like this, like you and I are using Zoom right now. We
Sure.
do our onboarding process through Zoom. So a customer signs up for a package. They immediately get served up an intake questionnaire. That intake
Mm,
questionnaires, it's really the beginning of the onboarding process where, we're asking questions not just about, the facts and figures of your business, but what are the problems you solve for your customers?
right.
Because at the end of the day, Casey, everything is about them. What's in this for me? That's how humans are wired.
Totally.
We still have the caveman wiring, the survival mechanisms, the where's my next meal coming from, or whatever. It's
Right.
like all of those things are still hardwired in us, and we still have them present for when we buy products and services. So
Right.
what's in it for me is a big part of what we get at through that intake process. What's important to your customers? What are they looking for? What problems do you solve for them? So all of that is the foundation for our content strategy that we create for our customers.
Got it. So you're asking these questions and you're trying to get to the heart of it. It's funny you mentioned the caveman. I was thinking some more of us than others, like caveman marketing, high five. But you're right. It's what's in it for me. And so we're thinking about these folks and then how do you arrange it? Are you looking at different stages in the buying process across the journey? Are you addressing content in different areas or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
what's your approach there?
So, some of it has to do with, well, what package did our customers sign up for? So
Oh, sure.
all of the packages and services that we provide are all in support of the sales funnel. So top of the funnel, middle, bottom. And so a customer could sign up just for the top. So they're looking for generating more traffic to their website, more brand awareness. And the top of the funnel is really the beginning of the buyer's journey. So
Yeah.
we will develop content that is appropriate for that. We will develop content that Google will index easily, index clearly, that Google will love. So all of that dictates the strategy for that particular customer. If
Right.
that customer is also doing stuff in the middle where we're generating leads, we need to have what we call meteor content. This is content bacon, of course. So
Yes.
meteor content, that content is then appropriate for the middle.
Wait,
Of,
how does a meteor relate to bacon? Is that a kind of bacon?
not a meteor,
Oh,
meteor,
oh,
meaty,
oh, meaty. Oh, okay.
meaty.
I was like, ooh, Meteor. That's a cool brand.
No,
Uh,
that is
too many SpaceX videos, I think.
tastier content. How about that?
Got it. Okay. Yep.
So we'll develop that kind of content. That's gated content,
Yeah.
it's longer form, it's more in depth, it's higher value. And so, again, we're always aligning what we're writing and creating based on what our customer has hired us to do, as
Right.
well as where their needs are in the customer journey or where their customers are in the journey.
Got it. Huh. That's
But
cool.
we have other customers too that they're also in different phases of the inbound or the content marketing
Yeah.
game. We have customers who are first starting and their content, or rather their website isn't inbound ready. They don't have, I don't think we've had one in a long while, but a couple of years ago we would have customers, they didn't have device responsive sites, or
Hmm.
they didn't even have a blog on their site, or
Interesting.
or any kind of opt-in opportunity. So there's customers like that. Then there's customers who have done content marketing or they've written content, but they can't do it anymore. They don't have the bandwidth for it to do it in house. So they're looking to us to solve that for them. So you know, they're on different ends of the scale too.
Yeah, it's interesting about the mobile friendly sites. It's been a couple years now where it's been the topic at the
Yeah,
conferences where they're like, you got to have this. Here's the stat. You got to have this.
yeah,
And it's almost like they can only do that so often before people are like, we get it. But what's crazy is I don't think people have actually changed. I just think the software they're using was like, ooh, this could be a really cool advantage. And they just made their stuff automatically mobile friendly.
sure.
And then the customer's like, oh, hey, look at that. We're mobile friendly.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't run into a customer with a site that wasn't device responsive in a while.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's gone away or what, but
What'd you call it? Device responsive?
yeah, you don't call
That's
it that?
cool. I was calling it mobile friendly, but maybe that's like
Well,
OG 90s.
I think it
You
might
still on
be
mobile,
like
Casey?
if I have a giant tablet, I don't, that like, yeah, I
That's
guess
not really a mobile, right?
I guess it's mobile, sure, but not in the way that you think of a phone is
Right.
mobile.
That's a good point. It's no longer just the phone. It's now the iPad. It's my parents have these like gigantic iPads, and I
Yeah,
have
the
like a
big
mini.
tablets.
I like the mini. It's kind of cool. You can
Yeah,
hold in hand, and
yeah,
it's all good. But man, it's that whole thing of like make these things bigger. Eventually, you have like a full wall
totally.
iPad.
Yeah.
And then how do you fit that in your pocket? I don't know, but they have these things and they're gigantic. And now everything has to truly be responsive. You know, you can't
Correct.
live
Yeah.
in a world where it isn't. But okay,
Right.
so you haven't bumped into those people in a while.
I feel like it's been a while. Yeah.
So if you're out there listening to this and you're not sure, or you go check your landing page out right now, and if it is, you are behind. It's like you're in gym class and everyone
That's right.
started the 1 mile run, and you're still tying your shoes. So get on that. Get on that.
Maybe like they're 5 miles ahead. I mean, Google has a device responsive checker. So if you just Google,
I like that.
Is my site device responsive? Google will. That's probably the first result that'll come up as a Google checker.
Yeah, Google will tell you what's up.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, so this is interesting. It really sounds like, you know, you start with the right mindset, and then you've got these questions you're really trying to understand. How often do they not know the answer to those questions you ask, or have like really, really crappy answers? You know, like, hey, what do you serve for your customer? And they're like, it's this software that costs $40 a month and it's really good. And you're like, that's not an answer.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think most of our customers are pretty aware around what they're doing or what they're up to, what game they're playing. I think they're pretty aware around that. What I think they're, again, to kind of go back to the beginning of our conversation, I think there's just lack of awareness as to how to do it, how to make sure they know what they're up to, how to make sure they know why they're a good option. But I think for the most part, the companies we're talking to, the customers we have, they know the value they provide.
Sounds like you work with some good groups, and that's good. Yeah, it sounds like they have the knowledge. It's in there, and you help them extract it and organize it and get it into some written content, some written formats. That
the language we use is we help them tell their story. Every company has a story to tell.
Stories.
And so we like to approach what we're doing in that format, in the storytelling format, because that's how people are. That's how our brains are wired anyway. We're wired to accept or to engage with stories and storytelling. And so, every company has a story to tell, and even companies in the same vertical, they each have distinct stories. So, and their customers have distinct stories, and their prospects do. So, we're always looking at it through that lens, and we want a customer's prospect to read their content and say, "Shit, that's me. I got to call these guys." So that's kind of the bar we're being.
I think you really hit on something there too. The storytelling thing. It really is. It is like the next way of writing that content.
Yeah, I think so.
We had Tom Gerace from Storynomics and he was on here talking about Skyward. It was a question the company I was looking for. We had in talking about how just it's not business as usual. Are you seeing that? Sometimes people want to write like they wrote in college or sort of write these like essays, but they get to you, and obviously bacon is not bland, right? Bacon is not your dried out buffet eggs that are like hard to the touch.
So that's sort of another, again, to use the word from the question, another myth. But we write for humans. We don't write for machines. And so what that means is what's underneath that is
break that down. That's really
humans want to be spoken to like they're a human. Yeah. And they want the content to have a voice. So I guess what that really means is like in the top of the funnel content that we're creating, you might say that it's more conversational than not. We've run into a couple of cases where some customers, getting back to lawyers for a minute, lawyers, they want their content to sound lawyerly. They want to, again, this is my bias. The bias is they want to write for other lawyers. And P.S. They're not writing for other lawyers. They're writing perhaps for a business owner. And by the way, I don't want to read legalese. I want to read something that's going to help me with the, problem I have inside my business. So, we at the top of the funnel, we're telling stories, and we're doing it in a way that makes it easy for a human being to relate to want to read it.
That's really interesting. Yeah. The idea of writing for yourself makes sense. And now we're kind of lucky because we get to work with other marketers, and so we
Yeah.
literally are writing for ourselves. But when I was back in the day, IT software or
Mhm.
whatever widget, I was doing marketing for, I wasn't writing for myself. But you have to be careful that you don't write like that. I mean, I've certainly had conversations with IT folks, and if you speak like a marketer to an IT person, you sound really fuzzy, lovey-dovey, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Look, I'm all about operational risk and security and uptime. I don't need this lovey-dovey doesn't keep our data center up at night.
Yeah.
I need Jira task lists. I need to hear how hardcore you are about project management. It's like a different audience.
Yeah.
And I've had the chance to even hear in conversations how people either light up when you start talking the way they want to hear, the way they talk, or if you talk something else, then they sort of shut down. It's the same thing in content. Then it makes sense. Write for your audience, and it's almost like, why are we even saying this? It's like a no-brainer,
It's
but it's
obvious, right?
true,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you got to remind yourself, unless you're selling to other marketers or other salespeople, whoever you are,
Yeah.
that you got to make sure. And if you don't know how do you do that, right? If you're not, obviously your clients aren't just selling to marketers. If you're selling to some other type of entity, some buyer persona that you don't even know yet, how do you learn to write in their language?
It's a good question. That's part of that early. That's part of that initial part of the process. In other
Yeah,
words, um, collaborating with our customer to really understand their customer is critical.
yeah,
What we're achieving there, or what we're attempting to achieve, is we need to become them. And so, interviews, conversations, maybe having conversations with current customers of our customer.
yeah.
That's the job of a writer. So our writing team, nearly all of them have some kind of journalism background. So
Right.
there's a natural inclination for curiosity, for asking questions, for wanting to know. And so through that entire process, we ideally identify how that prospect wants to be spoken to.
Right.
Um, your IT example, there are times where they just want the facts.
Yeah.
Give me the box score. Don't tell me,
Yeah.
don't keep the color to yourself. Give me the box score. But typically, I think in our experience, what we find is that's still middle of the funnel, if you will. That's part two.
Interesting.
I have to first, you got to give me some kind of invitation to want to get to know you.
Yeah. It may not be interesting, right? And it's not to say that, hey, if you're an IT or robot, but before I start getting hate mail on Twitter, I got a CS degree, people. So I'm with you. I'm one of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's so you're right. Just because someone tends to primarily act in a certain way, buyer tends to act a certain way, they might act different ways based on where they're at in that funnel. Early on, they still need that personal invitation. You still
100%.
hit them in the feels. They just have different feels than you and me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
everyone has concerns and hopes and dreams and fears and all that.
of course. Even if as an IT professional, I get a referral, Casey tells Dave to go check out this company.
Yeah.
I'm still going to look for, hey, what are these guys all about? That's kind of the process that's going on in the mind before I look for the data to say, okay, this is what I need to buy. What
Right.
are these guys all about? Are they nice people? Are they jerks? Are they obnoxious? Like, it's just, that's how humans are wired. And now we have
Right.
a very easy way as businesses to provide the information for someone to go through that process easily.
It's interesting though, as you mentioned that, I was thinking of, when even if I got a referral, I want to go see if these guys are jerks or if they're good, if they work or not. So I'm going to qualify them. Now, this particular buyer, I went to dating. I don't know why, but the idea of different people are going to be impressed in different ways, right? You walk up
Yep.
to someone and you're like, "Yo, I'm this," or "Hey, I'm a skydiver. What's up?" And some people are like, "Ooh, that's so amazing." Some people are like, "Yeah, whatever." But someone else, it might be, "Hey, I went to
Yeah.
Harvard," like, or someone else might just be a conversation, right? Everyone has a different way of qualifying, right? And
Absolutely.
each buyer persona is even going to address it in a different way. So to your point, they're still going to do it. So just try to figure out what are the things they're looking for.
That's right. You got to find out what works.
A friend of mine was sharing with me the other day that, there's different projects in AI that are automatically going out there and looking at different products and figuring out what different qualities are being pitched
Hmm.
by all the different products, gathering them all together, and then creating a super version of that thing, sending a plan off to China, and then it's like on the shelves online a few days later
Oh my
with all
God.
the qualities that everyone was looking for. It's
Yeah.
like it's gonna get crazy out there at some point.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. It's like you could go to, I guess you could avoid, product testing and doing
Yeah,
any kind of that market research. It's like market knowing, not market research.
yeah.
So it's market knowing, and then you go build a thing, and you could sell a prototype on Amazon, and if it sells, you build more. That's pretty cool.
Of anything.
Of anything.
Yeah. And if you're that person out there selling buckets or whatever just got
Yeah,
auto prototyped, good luck, man.
that's
But
super cool.
but back to the idea, people are qualifying and we want to get into their mind and figure out who they are. And I was thinking almost of like, um, what's that movie where on the island and he's like stranded and Wilson the volleyball? You know which one that
Oh,
is?
yeah. With
Tom
Tom
Hanks.
Hanks.
Yeah.
Uh,
We don't even know. People are screaming at us. Tom Hanks, Island,
Castaway.
Castaway. Okay, there we go. People are like these guys are stupid.
Whew.
But
I had to get. I would not be able to perform the rest of the conversation.
well, the good news is you figured it out before I googled it, so we're good. But I was thinking about Castaway. The idea of actors, method actors, really getting to know. Tom Hanks is not the FedEx guy. He's not this other thing, but he spent time getting to that part. You hear of other actors who, lose tons of weight.
Mhm.
And what was that? Like the Dallas Buyers Club? That was I don't know if you
Yeah,
saw that movie.
Matthew McConaughey. Yeah.
Yeah. He lost like a whole bunch of weight filming that thing so he could reflect that person he was playing who had AIDS and was really, really sick.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, kudos to them, but sometimes they can really mess themselves up. But I think where I'm going with this is they are really trying to get in the shoes
Yeah.
of the person they're playing,
Yeah.
and I wonder how we could learn from that example as marketers to get in the shoes of the people that we're messaging to, especially if they're completely different from who we are.
Sure.
They're
I
not
think
they're not us.
I think there's a whole lot to take away from that, and I think that when you talk about those actors, I don't think they're. I think technically speaking, they're not acting; they're being.
Ooh, yeah.
So Tom Hanks wasn't acting like a castaway; he was being a castaway. And I think that's what actors do, is right. You said it, they get in the shoes of that character, and they actually
Right.
be that character. They don't pretend. They don't act. So I think one of the takeaways, for all of us as human beings, like, who do we have to be
Yeah.
to achieve whatever goal we've set for ourselves, for the hour, for the day, for the week, the month, the year, the decade? Who do we have to be? How do we have to show up? And I don't mean act. I mean, I make a very clear distinction between being and acting. Acting is like pretending.
Right.
Being is actually, that's who you are being in that moment. So I think there's that takeaway. But I think with respect to our customers, we have the language in our office. It's like, call the customer and get in their world. What is
Right.
going on? What are they dealing with? And we want to do that because we can use that to create content. We can use that as an opportunity to change the voice, or it's just a part of the voice that we haven't learned yet. It's what they deal with when they're dealing with their customers. So there's all of that about getting it in. There's a whole world in getting into someone else's world, and we use that all the time. We use that language all the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Not acting, being. And the quote I wrote down here, which I want to just say again, was, call the customer, get in their world. You're not saying pretend to be them. You're not saying
Yeah,
ask them about their world. You're like, go get in their world. Go get on that island with the crew from Lost.
that's
Don't
that's
watch
great.
it from TV. Get in
Yeah,
there.
that's great.
see what it's like to be in there with them, looking around, seeing what they see, doing what they do.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting.
It's great that you mentioned getting on the island with them. There's a great animated video. You know who Brene Brown is?
No.
So Brene Brown is an author, a speaker. If you later when we're done, you Google Brene Brown empathy, and there's a very clear distinction between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is someone says, "Hey, I'm in a hole right now. I'm hurting and I'm in a hole." Empathy is you actually crawl down into that hole with them. Sympathy is you shout out from the top of the hole, "Hey, how's it going down there? I wish you weren't in that hole."
Seriously? So empathy, yeah, you have to crawl in that hole.
Yeah. And so that's what getting in someone's world is all about. It's like, what are you dealing with? And not what are you dealing with because I want to give you advice. It's what are you dealing with because I want to know about it. I want to get you. I want to get what you're dealing with, and maybe we can, create some solutions or whatever together. But that's what it is to get on the island with someone.
That's totally it. The empathy, having empathy in your marketing. Sympathy. I think sometimes it's too much of a fuzzy term, and without defining it like you just did. We're like, oh, be sad when they're sad, or it's like be with them in that.
Yeah. I want you to watch that video. I only came in contact with that video fairly recently, and
it's interesting.
It was really eye opening because the way the video lands on me, sympathy is really a useless emotion. It's useless because it's like if you'll see in the video someone says, "Oh, I was pregnant and I lost the baby." The other character says, "Well, at least you could get pregnant." That's sympathy, and that feels like shit, right?
Yeah.
Whereas empathy would be like, "Wow, I'm sure that's really hard. I don't know what to say to you right now, but I'm glad you told me." That's empathy. And so sympathy drives people apart, whereas empathy brings them together.
Huh. How often do you think we're being sympathetic when we're doing marketing these days?
That's a good question.
It feels like a lot.
Probably a lot. I mean,
it's like the lip service to helping out your buyer. Oh, are you having trouble getting leads?
Exactly.
Well, here, buy my thing. I'm sure it'll help you at some point. Or is your computer down? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's so. Well, at least you have a computer.
At least you have a computer.
At least you have a computer. Buy my thing.
Exactly.
Or here, talk to a sales rep who's like, yeah, you know what? And people can tell, especially when you're talking to them, if they're listening, or some people can. I tend to like listen to how people talk and if they're really being genuine. And I think authentic's the other word with that too. I think authenticity ties into this empathy and sympathy too, because it's almost like if you're being sympathetic, if you're showing sympathy, you're not authentic, right?
You got it, Casey. Yeah. 100% agree with that.
Interesting. It's like what a twisted web we weave. It all kind of ties together, huh?
Yeah, and I know I know the intention is from a good place when someone's being sympathetic. I think the intention is good. I think for the most part. I mean,
I think so. I mean, I gotta say, I've been sympathetic before. You're mentioning this, I'm like, oh shit.
I think it comes from a good place.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're not realizing. Well, it takes work to get in that hole with people.
Absolutely, it takes being vulnerable. It takes willing to want to not necessarily try to solve someone's problem, but to actually get them and have them feel gotten. That's what empathy is. That's again, someone's in a hole and they're dealing with some shit. Like, get in that hole with them. Say, I don't have the answers. I don't know what to do, but I'm in this hole with you, and I feel that you're going through something, and I'm willing to feel it with you.
You mentioned something else too, which is the problem solving. I think that's when I've been in problem solving mode. That's probably when I've been more on the sympathy side, because you're in the hole, I'm not in the hole, and I'm trying to say, hey, let me get you out of there. So rather than coming in there with you. But I think what we're discovering here, it's probably better hop in the hole with someone say, look, I've been here too.
Yeah.
And now I think about it, when I talk to people about marketing automation, I like, look, I've been here where I didn't have anything. I used Google and I had to hack it, and it was gross. I couldn't report ROI. It was really bad. I've been there. I'm in the hole with you.
Yeah.
Now together, here, let me give you a boost and let's get out of here. It's no fun in here.
That's right.
Out, as opposed to looking down upon someone and getting them out. But yeah, that problem solving can get in the way. That there's a place for that, but it sounds like the first way to meet someone is at that beginning part where you're being empathetic.
Yeah. I mean, meet them where they are. And I think that's what having empathy is. It's meeting them where they are. It's actually asking them questions, not delivering a prescription or a solution. It's asking them questions. What are you dealing with? What's going on with you?
Interesting. So what I love about this is that mindset we were talking about. And it's things like this. This is really what makes your bacon so tasty, right? This is what makes the content so good in the end. Because we can tell someone to, they could take your exact same questionnaire and give it to someone. I'm sure one of your competitors is doing that right now.
Probably are.
And it doesn't matter, because if they're not approaching it with the same mindset, if they're not hopping in the hole with someone, showing the empathy, and then also showing the empathy toward their buyer, then they're missing the point. And they're going to create this soulless, inauthentic content, which is kind of the status quo, which is what most content is.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right people creating it.
Very well said, Casey. Sounds like you do this for a living.
Well, yeah, just a couple days on the job. This is my first day.
Welcome.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And I know you're huge on mindset, and there was actually it's kind of cool. It's like, let's talk marketing, but we also talk mindset, and then we're going to spiral out of control and eventually talk Tony Robbins and stuff. We've been holding it together, people, holding it together. But what's neat is we're taking it deeper and deeper into the mindset, the idea that there are thoughts and feelings people have way before they take actions, and you actually had a really cool LinkedIn post you put out there, and maybe you can just set up for people. It's about your son and golf.
Yeah. So my son, I have a 15-year-old son. He just turned 15 this past weekend. He's a junior golfer. He's been golfing since he's 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
He probably has, if anyone's read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he probably has the 10,000 hours.
Yeah, 10K.
And if he's not, he's awful close. Dang. He spends summers. He has, he's on the golf team at school. He leaves early. He goes to the course. He's got a coach. He's got a swing coach. The context I'm providing is just to illustrate, this is his thing. This is what he's very serious about. He, he wants to be a professional golfer. So, he's really dedicated. I mean, he has a reputation amongst the coaches and other parents that no one puts in the kind of work that he puts in. And so a month ago, he was really frustrated with his game, and we're at the dinner table, and he just said, "I quit." He says, "I'm done. I quit." And it really came out of a place of frustration. He was really
more venting, or was it like stating, like, I guess either way, when you say those words, it can kind of click something.
Yeah, I think it was venting.
Yeah.
But just to utter the words is, whether the person saying it or the person hearing it, and, my wife and I, we support what he's up to.
Right. So
we're in it with him. We're in that hole with him. So, he said, "I quit." And, we just, we let that be. And,
sure.
And then we had a conversation and said, okay, let's go talk to Dan. Dan's a swing coach. Dan's a really experienced guy. He's, kind of the guy to talk to about where my son is. His name's Jackson, where Jackson is in his journey, what he's dealing with. Is this normal? Is it not normal? Typical, whatever. So we have that conversation, and, through my experience with, I guess empathy, or with just kind of asking questions, we uncovered that my son is really gifted in math. He's gifted in math.
Awesome.
So he's very focused on no.
Did he avoid the new math?
They don't teach that in my kid's school. So.
I'm moving my kid, because we'll talk afterward.
So, he has a very strong bias to formulas
Yeah.
and the game of golf. While there are mechanics, physics is a huge part of it.
Right. Right.
There's no two swings that are alike, and yet you can have a
Mm,
swing that is very um, non-traditional, if you will, like a
yeah.
Jim Furyk, and he can shoot 59. And then you have another guy on the other end of the spectrum who has a beautiful swing, and he also shoots 59. So um, he has a strong bias towards the mechanics. And so what we uncovered was he was trying to produce the perfect swing. Meanwhile, an ugly swing can still produce a perfect shot.
Yeah. Well, I think that's happened to me at Topgolf a couple times.
Right. So, I guess what came out of that session was, we're like, Jackson, you just, you want to be focused on the formulas and the mechanics. You do that in practice. When it's tournament time, you got to just go fucking play.
Yeah.
You got to use your heart. You got to be creative. You got to be free. And that's what the word playing is all about. And
Right.
so the month of April, he had 4 tournaments and he went 21st, first place, ninth place. And so he went from quitting to winning. And one of the tournaments he won was like a big deal tournament.
Wow.
Yeah. So the point is, Casey, nothing changed but his mindset.
Right.
He didn't all of a sudden learn a new swing
New
technique.
swing. Yeah.
He didn't learn anything new physically.
Especially after 10,000 hours of doing these swings, it's not like, yeah.
Yeah. And so the article that I wrote was really about how that's something we should all, in particular as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we have to be playing that game too.
Yeah.
And maybe there are some mechanics and formulas that all businesses should be, implementing. But at the end of the day, me, my partner, you, my EO, brothers and sisters, like
Yeah.
you gotta play with some heart and use that muscle as much as any other muscle.
Yeah. Get out of your head.
Get out of your head. We call it being on the court. Being on the court is out here in the real world where everyone is. There's nothing going on in your head. There's no people in your head. There, people are out here. The things that we have to do and handle and speak to and deal with, and all that shit's out here. So like, be out here.
Interesting. I've heard it said of like, we're quieting down that central, data computer, that central network, of thinking and analyzing and overanalyzing. We need to sort of silence that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the mind can be so destructive for us. Like if we allowed someone else to talk to us the way we talk to us,
Yeah, we punch him in the face.
punch him in the face. I
Totally.
mean, it's amazing how we allow that,
Right.
but we do. So you're right. We got to quiet that shit down.
Yeah. Especially, I see that with a lot of achievers too. The more focused you on the achievement side, obviously you're trying to get more of that and analyze and improve and adapt. But that self-talk can go from encouraging to beating you up more than anyone else could very
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And what people could or can also get is and you just touched on it. The self-talk, it doesn't have to be negative. Like we have it that it is often, but it doesn't have to be that way. We can use
yeah.
it. I have a coach mentor. He's another EOer that in fact I went and saw him after I saw you in Canada.
Yeah.
He's in Ottawa. I went and visited him in Ottawa, and he has this self-talk that he does before he's going to give a speech or a presentation.
What's his name?
Govind Jayaraman.
Okay.
You know Govind?
No, but I need to apparently.
Okay. He has this self-talk where when he's walking through an airport, he says, or when he's walking to give a presentation or a speech or a meeting, he says, "I'm unstoppable. I am unstoppable. I am fucking unstoppable." And what do you think happens when he gets to the place he's going? He's what?
Unstoppable.
Unfucking stoppable.
Totally.
So the same self-talk of I'm a loser and I can't win, guess what? You're going to be a loser and you can't win. You can have it. You can have it the other way too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that. It's almost like a mantra or just something that you're telling yourself repeatedly. It's that inner self-talk that can be positive. And, a lot of people have stories of just that can even just transform you. So even if you're not that, say that. And, one that I did for a while was, I am a world-class business leader, because at the time I was thinking, man, do I feel like man, I got to improve my game. And I was like, no, your game is good. Keep doing it. Grow, learn, right?
Awesome.
World-class business leader. And, it usually helps if you're like in the sauna doing sun god rotations. You're just like, I am this, and, the stories of even like Tony Robbins in a car, just like yelling at the top of his lungs. No one else is there, but just, and if you think about it, when was the last time we yelled at the top of our lungs in a positive way? Just really connecting that emotion, and just really owning something. So interesting. Yeah. That inner self-talk can be positive, and it can get you out of that head. One of the other things that I've picked up from Tony Robbins is that, if you get stuck in your head, you're dead. And it sounds like this was the golf thing too. You get stuck in your head, you're dead. And that's one of my challenges, because I can very quickly go into the head, as in I'll just over analyze the hell out of it.
Oh yeah.
And I'll just spiral out of control. And one of the techniques they do is they say you got to get into your heart. And this is the exact same thing you're saying with leading with love,
100%.
Your son, and love the game, play. Your muscles know what to do. You inherently, you've put the practice in already. So just go. And they had different exercise. One was like, I went up to this lady. I'm like, look, I'm stuck in my head. I can't answer this simple question. It's really frustrating me. And I'm going in a spiral, and keep saying the same things over and over again. And put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and just focus on your breathing for just like a minute. And we never do this. So like when you do something like that, it just takes you off your game, and your brain's like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to count my breaths, or I'm going to focus on this. But it's your whole like mind is now focused on something so simple, and you're connecting. There's probably a lot more to it, but it just, that kind of a simple activity got me out of that head mode to a point where I was and as soon as you're in that heart mode, when I went down, sat down with that book, that journal, and I just knew the answer, right? It just, instead of like, oh, do I do this? Do I do that? It was like, I got out of the head, and then I just knew,
You touched on it. You've done the hours, you've done the work already. So what my son's golf coach says to my son is, he says, like, he'll give him a technique.
Yeah.
He'll give him what he calls it, a swing thought. I mean, that's a common phrase in golf coaching, a swing thought. So if you want to go left, you swing, think left. Want to go right, you think right. It's like that kind of thing.
So wait. If you want to go left, think right? Or
swing right, think left.
Okay, break this down for me.
I can't.
So you swing and you think. Is it as simple as like, you want the ball to go left, you just think about it going to the left?
There's this video of Tiger Woods, and I think it's Anthony Kim.
Yeah,
who's a golfer who kind of has vanished. They're doing a like a workshop.
Okay.
Like doing a demonstration with a crowd.
Yeah.
And someone says, "Hey Tiger, how do you hit a low fade?" And he gives a 10-minute dissertation. And they say, "Anthony, how do you do it?" He goes, "I don't know. I just think low fade."
Right.
If you watch any video of Bubba Watson, same questions. Bubba, how do you hit how do you go left? He goes, "I don't know. I just think left."
Interesting.
So the point is, you can learn these techniques, you learn things, and the idea is when it's time to play, you forget about them. So my coach's sons will say to him, "Okay, just forget about it." Because what often will happen is you're so focused on it, you overdo it.
Yeah.
You start hooking it.
Right.
And so, he says too much of a thought is a good thing. So just forget about it.
Forget about it. Me and golf, mini golf, and one time at Top Golf, but the thought I had when you were talking about that was indoor skydiving.
Okay.
And I love skydiving. Indoor works in the wintertime. And have you ever been?
I haven't.
Okay, well, next time you're up here, we'll go. It's a blast. You won't die.
I got it.
You're like, I'm fine. That's not my issue.
I'm down. There's an iFly that just opened up.
Oh my gosh, where? I'm coming down.
In Davie, Florida. Not far.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have one in my town, like right in Nashua, New Hampshire. There's one. It's crazy. I worked there when I was a kid. Um, so when you first start learning, you learn to fly. Have you done real skydiving?
No.
Man, we got things to do together. This is good.
Okay.
So when
I'm ready.
you're flying, you first learn to fly on your belly.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of in this arch position like you see in the movies. And what's really cool, and people when they join Cheshire Impact, we take them all indoor skydiving because it's just
Oh,
weird
nice.
and wacky, and we're like,
Awesome.
welcome to the cult of Casey. But so we like you get in there, and what's crazy is for the first time in a long time, unless you've done some of these sports or athletics, every position of your body actually matters.
Okay.
And I know this definitely relates to golf with, man, feet, hands, everything, right? Well, when you get in there, your whole body is like an aerodynamic airplane falling through this wind. And so when your hands are up, if they're not parallel, then you're turning somewhere. Or if your hands are up but not as much as your feet are out, you're going to go forward. So there's this whole balancing act. And the whole point at the very beginning is just to get balanced, get so that homeostasis, little science fact, that balance where the forces are all equal on all your different legs and body and torso, so that you just float there without moving. And once you get that, you can learn to like move something and twist and turn in the slightest knee bend or the shift or that, you're turning left or right. And at first it's really awkward. And the more awkward it is, the worse you do. And in fact, if you're super solid in your body, you start potato chipping, which is where you just sort of rock back and forth. So if you see new people, they're in there and they're just sort of rocking back. It's because they're so solid. And so they have hand signals. And one is like the surfer, hey, what's up, dude? And that just means relax. And when they give this to people, you see them all stressed out and they're like, relax. And they just follow instructions and they relax and they sink into their arch and they just settle. And you see it just working.
Yeah.
And I found that early on, you're trying to work to figure out how to turn, but eventually you just do. And then you just think it. And eventually they teach you to fly on your back. And I remember going from being like an expert at belly flying, like I'm the man, and then like, okay, let's learn how to fly on your back. You're like, whoa, okay. And it was complete opposite. Your legs have to be in a different position. And I sucked at it for a long time. And they're like, no, do this, do that, and then you'll float. And it never made sense. But eventually I can now fly on my back. But to your point, I don't know how. It just works. Yeah. And it's like it doesn't. And then eventually sitting like Spider-Man, it's crazy. But it didn't really work for me until I put in enough time being goofy and having them keep me from flying to the side. And eventually it works. And then, I can do these barrel rolls now. I guess technically they're called aileron rolls, but where you kind of like flip around. Mm-hmm. I have no idea how I do that. A little bit. I know some things happen, but I just kind of go and it just sort of happens. Yeah. And yeah, it's like you get out of the head, you're into that muscle memory. You're in the heart. You're just sort of just playing, You
just go be. You just go and be.
Go and be, man. Well, so content bacon. Tell me about this thing. How long has it been? Like many years, many moons ago, you started this thing, or?
So we're going on our 4th year. My partner and I, we're both EOers. We met in
Wendy, right?
Wendy and I met in the accelerator program of EO back in 2012, 2013. We both had different businesses. We, got to know each other. We started a new business, Content Bacon. So we're going on our 4th year. Our mission is to make it really easy for companies to, start and fuel their inbound marketing strategies. And so the thing that we've, that we're really aware of, the thing that we've really, are always keen to is that companies, there's plenty of tools out there, but there's plenty of platforms, there's plenty of software, but you still need content. Yeah. And so companies largely struggle with producing content, good content, useful content that does all the stuff that we're talking about. So we make it really easy for companies to do that. We're not an agency. We have a subscription model. It's easy for you to say. Yeah. They pick from a package that is, either in support of, top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, or bottom of the funnel, or one that's all three. And we onboard them in 30 days and we get started pushing content out, after those first 30 days, and boom, they have an inbound marketing machine very easily.
Yeah, it's not as hard as people may think it is.
It's
But you're
not.
right. It's the ammo. I always compare like marketing automation
That's great.
is your
Yeah.
awesome like gun on
Yeah.
Contra. Remember that old Nintendo game?
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Like it's your sports car, your race car or something, but
You need fuel.
content is your fuel. It's your ammo, it's your fuel, it's what makes the motor work. And people realize that. So sometimes they get to this like lack of content, like indecision, like, well, I don't have any, so I can't then start doing inbound marketing. I'm not going to get marketing automation because, well, I don't have the content. It's like, it's, it's possible to get this stuff created, but to your point, do it in the right way. Cause you could there's some bad sites out there and you could go and you could get the worst content ever that no one wants to read and it's going to hurt your brand.
That's right.
So don't do that, but there are easy ways to get really good content. And obviously, you're on this mission. Does Wendy like bacon as much as you do?
Everyone loves bacon, Casey.
Everyone does love bacon. I actually cooked a pack of bacon with my son on the weekend because the girls were away. So it was like dude day. So there was a pack of bacon, and dudes don't cook a half a pack of bacon. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like,
whole pack only.
whole pack, man.
That's
But
great.
later on, when I was at my parents' house, my dad had this like double, triple pack.
Yeah.
But he was gonna cut it up or whatnot, because that would have been a little weird to cook that whole thing. But maybe that's what happens at your office every day. Is you're just cooking up yards of bacon. You know
We
what?
don't.
I would visit if that was the case.
We don't have bacon sizzling here in the office, but when a new customer signs on, we do send them a box of cupcakes. One of those cupcakes has candied bacon on it, so
You got to, man.
have to.
Is it like the candy maple bacon or like the
It is
smoky bacon?
Oh yeah.
Tell you what, man, that's pretty popular up here. There's even bacon cotton candy. I don't know if you send that to your customers too. That might be a good idea.
That sounds a little scary to me.
Dude, you're content bacon, man. You can't say no to bacon things. You should probably have tried them all out.
Okay, I'll try it. You twisted my arm.
You need to lead from the front here and try out all these weird bacon. Next time I see a bacon thing, I'll send it to you. Some weird. How about the bacon? I don't know if they have bacon jelly beans. Those like little.
They do.
Tiny ones.
They do. The Jelly Belly brand. They have.
Yeah, Jelly Belly.
Some of them taste like socks to me, but.
Well, you must have had the earwax one then.
Oh, definitely.
Man, those things are dangerous. My daughter got some. Was like, look at these. I'm like, I don't know why they do it.
Not nice at all.
Well, dude, who are you? Like, what's really fascinating is mindfulness, the companies, the accelerator, content, bacon, all these different things. Take us back to the beginning. Back when you were a nugget or however far you want to go.
Okay.
But like, what's really interesting is like, how did you get these different experiences that now have led you to just really be a champion for good content, mindful content?
Okay. Well, that's a pretty big question.
Yeah, man. I'll get a Snickers.
Yeah. So where do we start? I grew up in South Florida.
Nice.
I have two older brothers. I think probably around the age of 10, we moved to Atlanta. Parents got divorced when I was in Atlanta. That was a pretty impactful thing on who I was developing or who I was.
How old were you at the time? 10, you said?
Yeah, 10 years old.
There's a new city, new setup with all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that create so events. Certain events in people's lives, they create ways of being for people, and
Right.
So that certainly created something in me that I wasn't even aware of until many decades later. So, but I guess my journey is, moved back to South Florida, me and one of my brothers and my mom, and I went to undergrad down here in Miami. I have an undergrad degree in communications. And then after undergrad, I moved to Los Angeles. I lived in LA for almost 10 years, working in the film and television industry.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Did you want to be an actor, or do you just want to do like editing and filming?
I went out there. I went out there thinking I'd be a director or a writer, or writer director, and I think what was missing in me at that time was maybe some risk taking qualities, or wanting to put in those 10,000 hours. I think I had maybe a chip on my shoulder about it.
Well, were you like directing at home all the time, or what inspired you to do that? And communications, I did that too.
I think I was interested in creating visual content. And
Interesting.
so, at some point in college, I took, a film studies class or a series of them.
Yeah,
And
I
I
did that
fell,
one. How'd you do?
well, in those classes, I did phenomenal. In the other classes, I didn't do so
Okay,
phenomenal.
I failed film studies, but we'll talk about that later. But go ahead.
So I definitely fell in love with film. And,
Interesting.
I thought, okay, yeah, let's go work in film. And to me, the only place to work in film was LA.
Right.
So
Naturally.
moved to LA, and um, I worked in what might be viewed in LA as the sort of the stepchild part of the business, which is post production. And
Yeah.
so I worked in that part of the business for a while. I started a company with a couple of partners out there.
Oh, cool.
Like in 2000, when DVDs were still kind of penetrating the market at a very steep pace,
Sure.
we started a company that was focused on, and this is even more sort of stepchild, uh, audio restoration. So
Huh.
back up, I was in the audio post production part of the business, not
Got it.
even not even
Got it.
picture post production. So there, a film gets shot, and you have to do audio post, and you have to do picture post.
Right.
So, but companies like MGM and Sony, they were going back into their library and re-releasing titles on DVDs, and so we had a connection with MGM, and they hired us to start working on their library of films, foreign release films. So the first movie that we worked on was Platoon.
Wow.
And Platoon, we got the audio tracks in, is all European audio tracks. So English, German, French, Italian, Spanish.
Wow.
And we had
For
to take
Platoon.
for Platoon. And so what our job was to do was to take that, if it was a stereo track, left, right, we had to, through engineering and through some trickery, we would make that a surround sound.
Wow.
So, and we would also clean up the audio. So the audio, if it had any
Was
hissing
it
or,
already timed to the lips? Because that would have been a nightmare to try to figure
no,
out.
well, so English was fine because it was
Well,
English.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just a different speed. But the rest of the languages were dubbed. We would get the dubbed version. So, you know, yeah, the time code, the picture and
It was,
audio had to match up.
yeah.
Sound effects are still the sound effects. If you
Yeah. Thankfully. Yeah.
it's got to be a sound for a gunfire. So we did that.
Wait,
We got
wait. The
paid.
gunfire is not in a different language? It's not
No,
pow pow, bing bing.
no.
You know?
We got paid $75,000 for that first project, and
Wow.
we thought
Well,
we
there's
were
like
million.
5 of you, right? Or something?
There was three of us.
Oh, three. Hey, it's not bad.
No,
Did you have the entrepreneurial bug before that? Or were you like, hey, there's something here?
I think that was the bug. I think
Yeah.
I had it whenever I had a job. I think I was built in such a way or wired in such a way that I often would want to ask for forgiveness, not permission, or I wanted to see how we can improve or find a better, or different
Yeah.
way. So I think I had that kind of way of being early on. But this particular company was the start of being an entrepreneur, and we went on to work on hundreds of films for MGM. Hundreds of films for Sony, who was doing the same thing. They were re-releasing old titles,
Right.
and we went from we started in my partner's living room. We went from the living room to a small studio to a bigger studio. I eventually, departed those guys, and I moved back to South Florida. But they went on to build an even bigger studio, and
Is that how you got an accelerator?
no. So there's still
Oh, okay.
this was
A
99
while ago. Right.
2000,
Right. Yeah.
2004. And when I moved back to South Florida, my role with the company was to build the brand. And
Right.
so I found that I was, much more interested in building the brand than being in the film business. And so I said, I don't need to live in LA where I can't afford a house and, it was all that shit.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say it probably wasn't. You weren't in like baller mode out there,
it was not,
throwing down to money. Probably just like scraping by.
it was,
Yeah. It's all like, oh, it's all glamorous out there. It's like, well, for all the glam, there's 95% of the other people who are just like putting in the work and grinding it
you
out.
got it. You got it.
Yeah.
So came back to South Florida where I had a base, and
Yeah.
I started over professionally, but I started working in marketing, and I
Nice.
used all of the storytelling techniques that I learned in the film business.
Wow.
So every story has a beginning, middle, and an end, a good guy, a bad guy, a problem, a solution.
Right.
Those are the fundamentals of theatrical storytelling. So I use those for, as the overlay for my customers' problems, uh, in branding, in advertising, in, marketing copy. And so I use all of those uh, to help my customers. And I worked for a marketing company down here, and then I eventually left and I became the CMO for a software startup,
Nice.
an angel-funded software startup. And so that was between, the end of '07 and the beginning of '09. And what happened in the beginning of '09, the whole world fell
Oh
apart
yeah, totally.
economically. So I had a really nice job, well-paying job, which I got laid off from because we ran out of angel money.
Oh yeah, that runway when you have a startup, you only have so much time.
Yeah,
You got to find that product market fit. You got to get some recurring revenue. You got to get some paying
yeah,
customers.
you got it.
The clock is ticking. Yeah.
So in March of '09, I started my previous company, which was a branding firm.
Oh, cool.
And I had a customer day one right away. Fortunately, I had a really deep network of
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
contacts. So I was able to tap in right away. Other business owners say, hey, I'm doing this thing on my own. We can provide a lot of value for not a lot of money. The economy at that time created this really great environment of freelancers who were very skilled. So much of the world was out of business or out of work, but they were very senior people. So I had access to senior designers, senior,
Wow.
web experts, copywriters. So I was able to cobble together like a virtual agency, and I was in business right away. And I did that for a few years, and I was very happy.
Right.
But it was a lifestyle business, and it wasn't a business I could scale.
Right.
That's when I joined Accelerator,
Got it. Got
and
it.
that's when I was like, oh shit, I can't scale this. I don't even want. I don't
What
even
am
want
I
to scale.
doing? Yeah. 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 Interesting.
And that's when I met Wendy, and she had a marketing agency, focused on different services than I was focused on.
Right.
And initially, I'm like, hey, why don't we just join forces, and we'll just be a bigger version of what we have.
Right.
And we both were like, yeah, that doesn't sound great. What are you doing that's scalable and process oriented? What was I doing? And it was all around content. And so that's how Content Bacon was born. And
The
fast
rest
forward,
is history,
the
man.
rest is history.
That's really cool. It's those journeys that not always easy, tough, and who would have thought you'd be grinding it out at 2 a.m. editing some sound in LA, and then
Yeah.
years later rocking it on EO stages and podcast interviews
Well,
and
that's what I want. That's what I want my son to get. That's what I want my team to
yeah,
get, is that, those things we see that look like overnight successes, they're not. There's no such
right.
thing. Overnight successes take 10 years. And I don't think I was keen to that as a younger man.
Sure.
I know I wasn't. And even today, I have bouts of impatience. And as an entrepreneur, if there's one quality you have to have, it's patience, because nothing happens quickly.
I know.
Even the things that look like they're quick, they're not quick. So it's like 10,000 hours. How long does it take you to put in 10,000 hours into anything? It's a long time.
How quickly do you think you can get to 10,000 hours?
I don't know. I got to get out my calculator. It's
Oh,
like, right? So let's just do it real quick. So how many hours can you work in a week? I mean, without killing yourself, 60
well,
hours?
8 hours a day.
Let's just say it's 60. As an entrepreneur, you're going to put in 60 hours a week, right?
Well, I was thinking like you're working your job, you do your 8 hours, and then you sleep for 8 hours. So 8 hours a day,
It's only 16 hours.
365 days a year.
But we're not going to work 365.
That's only about 3,000 hours. So that's like
There you go.
3-4 years of 8-hour days. Your son's played a lot of golf.
A lot of golf. And any entrepreneur that wants to have a successful multi-million-dollar annual revenue business, you got to have patience. Certainly people get lucky. They strike gold.
Right.
They right place, right time.
Right.
That is the minority, the vast minority of businesses. The rest of us got to grind it out and have patience. And I think that's the one thing that I'm now at 44 years old, I'm really getting.
Well, you don't look 44, but I will say, not just entrepreneurs, but really anyone, losing weight, going to the gym,
Anything.
getting in
Yeah.
shape. relationships, any of this stuff. You know, when you see like a lovey-dovey couple that's like holding hands and they've been together for 60 years, you're like, oh, they're so sweet together. They haven't necessarily always been sweet together. They
No,
put in some work, man. They had
absolutely.
to really get to know each other's finer points. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a good point that, you know, anything that you really care about is you have to be intentional about really just putting in that time, being smart about it.
You got to put in time, and that goes back to the content game. It's like,
Yeah.
it's, you know, that's just you got to do it. It's like exercise. You know, you don't do content for a month and you go, okay, I'm good now.
Ripped after a month, I'm just gonna stop
I'm
now,
shredded.
right? No, it's
No, it's like
consistency, right?
you're always doing it, and that's what we want to advocate for. You know, whether someone works with us or not, that's what we advocate for.
Right.
You know, content is a long term, slow burn, always on activity.
Absolutely. It's a mindset. It's a way of being. It's a constant activity. It's a constant thing that you're doing as a part of lead gen, a part of nurturing, a part of everything. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. This has been awesome. I don't know if you looked at the clock, but time is just like bam,
It
just like
has.
it's like a time warp chamber.
This was great. I really enjoyed it, Casey. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah. Well, hey, throw out some links.
Okay.
Where can people get in
So,
touch with you?
yeah, you can find us at contentbacon.com.
Sure.
Perfect URL that we were able to get. No one had that. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Dave Kustin. I'm sure you're going to put up some phenomenal graphics.
Yeah, we'll have show notes and we'll find
Um,
your best image.
yeah, you could. You go to Content Bacon, you'll find links to our Facebook, you'll find links to our Twitter, our Instagram, all that stuff.
Sure.
I'm on LinkedIn. Anyone wants to reach out, ask a question, I think you'll get that my whole intention is to be helpful.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, any listener, anyone out there that needs a kickstart, that needs some help with getting started, we're happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, totally. What's your Twitter? Is that a good place to connect to? Like, what's your Twitter?
Handle's Dave Kustin.
Dave Kustin. Simple. Yeah. The man. Simple. It's not Dave Kustin 2 or
No.
245
No.
or 18 or 1980. No. It's like, it is what it is.
That would be 1973.
It would be nice. I was giving you a couple of years there.
Thank you.
Trying to help you out.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man. This has been a blast.
Likewise. Thank you, Casey.
Awesome.
Yeah, look forward to seeing it and promoting it and sharing with everybody.
Absolutely. And that's actually a great point. You know, for the people listening, if you learn something here, whether it's about marketing or even the mindfulness, getting in the hole, empathy, those kind of concepts, there's some good stuff. And even the idea that it doesn't happen overnight, you know, these kind of things, think about who needs to hear that and share that with them. You know, share this episode with them, you know, Dave's information, get that in their hands so that they can, you know, take that next step to get out of whatever rut they've been in. So definitely do that. And there's one other thing we created, and Dave, I'm going to invite you to this too. There is a hardcore marketing group on LinkedIn. It's like super secret, private shadow group, but it's for anyone listening to this, as well as all of the speakers that we've had on the show.
I love it.
All on there. We just continue the conversation on there. So people have questions, they can go hop on there, you know, create a discussion. And so anyone that is listening, you can go look for that group and we'll add you to it. And Dave, awesome. I'll send you an invite shortly to it.
I look forward to it. Thanks, awesome. Casey.
Well, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show, everybody. We will check you all next time.